Welcome in, everybody. Show number 299. I've said that the last couple of weeks, 298, 299. So next week's 300. I can count a little bit. And I'm like, wow, we've been doing this thing for a while. So thank you all for listening. And I really appreciate people come up periodically and say, hey, man, caught the podcast. Listen to the podcast. Now watch the podcast. And it means a lot to me. It really does. I'm humbled by the fact that people want to hear what BS I have to say every week, and probably better that they listen to the interviews. Have another great one this week. A buddy of mine, Kyle Keefe, who's done such a tremendous job over the years quarterbacking things down at altitude on the coverage of your Colorado Avalanche. We'll get to that in a moment, but first want to thank our big sponsors, Huntington Bank. They are terrific. I tell people they're right around every corner now in our state. You need to go in and you need to learn about what they do. It's friendly, it's local, it feels that way, and they have some great opportunities for you to make checking easier in your life, make savings easier in your life. So go to huntingtonbank.com. Steel, well, it's that time of year. I know it's been snowing out lately. It doesn't matter what the season is. Steel will get your property right. STIHL. SteelUSA.com is where you go shopping, and you can find a multitude of products. Some stuff you haven't even heard of or maybe even seen. You say, wait, I can use that. That's going to help out on this project, or maybe doing something in a flower bed, or as you prune trees. They got it, man. If it's going to help your lawn, if it's going to help your property look better, trust me, Steel has it. STIHL, SteelUSA.com, SteelDealers.com is where you'll find your closest dealer, and there's more than 10,000 around the nation. All right, let's get right after it. Week one of the Major League season has concluded, and it's not the type of start the Rockies wanted. How about that for an understatement? It's been an awful start. There's no way around it. The Rockies, as we tape on this Saturday morning, 1-6 through their first 7, and it's kind of baffling how this has come about. In that the Rockies started 1-6 a year ago, and then it was kind of more about pitching. This year, the Rockies' rotation through the first week of the season has the lowest, I have to repeat that, the lowest ERA of any team in Major League Baseball. They have a 1.64 earned run average for their starting rotation through 7 games. That has never happened before. Even a small sample of games like this is, where the Rockies led baseball in starting pitching ERA. And you would think, if I told you that before the season started, hey, 7 games in, the Rockies are going to lead Major League Baseball in rotation ERA, you would say, wonderful. They're going to, get off to a, 5 or 6 win start in that first week. Obviously, it's been the opposite. And the two places where they have been completely deficient, the bullpen, who I really still believe is going to be solid as this year progresses. I'm going to hold to that right now. A lot of young arms that finished the season really well last year have gotten off to a slow start, other than Seth Halverson. Halverson's thrown the ball well. The bullpen has not been good, coughed up some leads, but the leads have been precarious ones because maybe the biggest issue of all, not maybe, the biggest issue of all, is that the Rockies have not hit. And they have not hit, to be honest, over the last couple of years. They strike out at the highest rate in baseball. They don't walk a lot. You can live with that if you're hitting a lot of home runs. The team the Rockies are playing right now, the A's, they strike out, but they hit homers. And that's, again, an area where the Rockies hope to get better, but it hasn't happened yet. They're averaging through 7 games, 2 runs a game. And there are going to be periods where the bullpen gives up leads, that sort of thing. But your margin to win when you score 2 runs a night, that's ridiculous. So it's been frustrating. I know that the players, especially the position players, are completely frustrated. And on one hand, you want to say, well, this is part of the process. You're going to play a lot of young players, young service time players, and try to find out who's going to be part of the solution. And we know that Tovar will be and Doyle will be based on what they've done the last couple of years. I believe Tolia will be starting to swing the bat a little bit better after a slow start, but ton of strikeouts so far. Hunter Goodman's off to a good start. He looks like he's going to be part of the solution. But you got to find out about the Jordan Becks, ultimately the Zach Veens, down the road the Jordan Montgomerys. You have to find out about all of those young guys and who will be able to be not just a big leaguer, but an impactful big leaguer that is part of a team that can win more than they lose. But it's been an atrocious start. It's been a frustrating start. And to a man, they feel that inside that clubhouse. So we'll see what transpires in week 2, but there's no getting around it. 1-6, scoring 2 runs a game. Maddening to watch. But today's a new day. It's one of the beautiful things. I know we always say this about baseball. Imagine when you're playing, crappy in football, you got to wait a week to play again. Well, baseball, you go home and you feel like shit, but the next day you're like, all right, another opportunity. Maybe they break out a 10 spot tonight and can build something from there. But there is no getting around. This is not the start, especially given where the Rockies have been the last several years. This is not the start that anyone desired. So we'll see what comes about going forward. Hey, this is a big story. It's a few days old, but I certainly wanted to comment on it. And that is, and though it seemed to take a while, Deion Sanders signs a very, very lucrative long-term deal to stay in Boulder. 5 years, reported $54+ million deal. And I have said on multiple occasions on this podcast that I didn't think Deion was going to go anywhere. The flirtations with the NFL, some of his buddies, Stephen A. Smith and others saying, he's got to go to, the next big SEC job that opens up, or potentially, if it were to change with Mike Norvell, Florida State, his alma mater. I'm not buying it because I don't know Deion Sanders. I've said that. But reading the tea leaves, talking to people that do know him, and actually listening to what he says and taking him at his word, because he appears to be a very honest guy and always has been, that he loves Boulder, that he's content in Boulder. And so I was not shocked that he signed that deal. And good for the University of Colorado, good for Rick George, who brought him in to say, no, we literally, after 2 years, won a sub 500 year the first year, 4-8, and then last year, the 9-4 season. We have to sign this guy for as lucrative a deal as possible. And now he becomes, depending on how you measure it, one of the 5 or 6 highest paid coaches in college football. I mean, he's with not quite where Kirby Smart is, but Ryan Day, Steve Sarkisian, who just re-upped at the University of Texas. He's right in that neighborhood. Dabo Sweeney. And you had to do this. You absolutely had to do this. If you want to play with the big boys, if you want to be relevant with all that he has done for the University of Colorado, where it's now a destination for 18-year-olds, and as we know, a destination for kids in the portal, the overpopulated portal. If you wanted to continue to play at that level and grow, even with Shedeur Sanders moving on, even with Hunter moving on, you needed to re-up Deion Sanders, because he has become, and Colorado thusly has become, must-watch television. And I don't think there's any question, even with the departure of those 2 great players, that he's going to continue to bring in the next edition of big-time football players. And he's doing it in a unique way. He's not just, old school going, hey, we're going to sign 25 18-year-olds and battle Alabama and Ohio State for the top classes. I mean, he's going to do well in every household in that regard. But we're a new era. About it. It's NIL. And it's also the cachet of playing for Deion for some of these guys, and some of these guys that have already made a name for themselves in college football and arrive in the portal, which will always be I think in this day and age, at least 50%, if not more, of the guys that he goes out and brings in each new season. And I watch those videos, and I know you do. I don't watch all of them, but I love the messaging that he sends, that it's, not just about trying to get to the NFL. It's about being a professional and understanding finances and life lessons. And I think he absolutely adores the opportunity to mold 18 to 23-year-olds, and not just if they're his kids, or not just, almost like his own kid and Travis Hunter. So I applaud, again, Colorado for doing this, because keep in mind, they're not an SEC team. They're not a Big Ten team. They're a Big 12 team. And as this landscape continues to change, we clearly have seen that now there are those two conferences and then a step down to the next two Power Four conferences. They can go out and dominate the Big 12. And maybe it's the best thing that they're not in the Big Ten or the SEC, because the path to the college football playoff, as it's currently constituted, may be more advantageous for them as a member of the Big 12. So they had to keep Deion. It was a no-brainer. Easy to say, it's not my money, but they had to come forward, because think of the impact he had not only on the University of Colorado, but on the Boulder community economically every Saturday. And I know you followed this. College admissions, college applications have gone down, not up. But at the University of Colorado, the interest in that fine institution has risen, and it has risen dramatically since Deion Sanders took over. If you have high school age kids and now college kids over the last handful of years, one thing you've noticed, not just here in Colorado, but I'm from the Northeast originally, talking to friends in the Northeast, there has been such an upswing in kids from northern areas, western areas, going to SEC schools just to matriculate, not to play ball, just to go to school there, because there's this collegiate appeal that is on display every Saturday afternoon for the Georgias and the Alabamas and the LSUs. And whether a kid is, in the past, you're like, okay, most of the kids probably are from the South. But now kids in California, New York, New Jersey, Colorado, all over say, that's appealing to me. And I think we've seen the same thing now with the University of Colorado since Deion's arrived. So big tip of the cap to Boulder, the University of Colorado, and for Rick George for getting that done. So Deion will be in Boulder, and CU football will remain relevant. If you listen to this podcast, the Avalanche, a team that I got to cover when they first arrived from Quebec in the capacity as the pregame host and postgame host and in between periods guy, absolutely fell in love with the Avalanche then, continued to be an enormous fan. I try never to miss a game, mostly on the tube, but I get down to Ball Arena when I can. Love watching them. Love how they've turned this roster around, and as you watch them, you say, hey, this could be 2022 revisited. It's always going to be a tough path. So I thought it would be appropriate as we wind down the regular season, and the Avalanche, since the Four Nations Cup, have played brilliant hockey, to get Kyle Keefe on. He's a buddy, have mad respect for what he does 4 nights a week, typically in covering the Avalanche on altitude. He has great charisma. I remember when he first started back in the mid-late 90s, he had an ease on the air, and I knew he was going to be outstanding at this. And he, remains humble, and it's a good watch when you're watching their lengthy pre and post game show. It's great that altitude does such long and involved shows, because if you're a hockey fan, you sit there and you keep watching them, especially obviously if you're an Avalanche fan. So a lot to talk about with my man Kyle Keefe about where the Avalanche are, how they got here, And oh yeah, guys like Gabriel Landeskog, um, guys that perhaps are injured right now that you may be concerned about. So he's going to break it all down in this interview in show number 299. My man Kyle Keefe, who covers the Avs for Altitude. All right, this is one of my favorite dudes in town. He knows that, and I don't get to see him a ton. I like bother him when he's on set every once in a while. But now you move to some super secret set. I see it on TV, the couch and shit. But I can't ever find you when I'm at the arena. So I got to call you and say, hey man, where are you? So actually, this morning you were getting your hair cut. I know a lot about that. How did you do? Hey, nice job.
Yeah. So, what's funny, Drew, is I used to go to Fantastic Sam's or Cost Cutters or whatever those shitty places are. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start taking care of my hair. So I went to like a real barber, and guys are great, but I sit in there with all these guys with all these different, they got guys go in there when they've got hair. And so I sit down with, my girl, and she's like, well, what do you want to do today? And I'm like, well, the options are not great. And I would say the options right now for everybody on our broadcast, Moj has got a big fat circle. Riker, as you well know, has an island with I don't know what the hell's coming off the back. And then me, and even Johnny's got it's
pretty boy losing it.
Oh yeah. He's got a little thing right here.
You might as well shave like a wine glass into the
right. I mean, those baby blue eyes better be coming in real. 5 years on TV, you know how it is. It just pulls it right out of your skull.
Yeah, we're in Philadelphia the other day, and they do a really good job in the visiting television booth. They have every picture up of all the visiting announce teams. And so I'm actually up there 4 different times because, now I have Huey, I have Ryan Spielborgs, obviously, I have Corey Sullivan, and God rest his soul, the great George Frazier, right? And so my picture's all over the place. And the one with Frage was taken like 20-something years ago, and I have hair. So, I was laughing with you a moment ago off air because I was saying, dude,
what's funny? You actually, Drew, you own it, and I think you look better. I'm not kidding.
I like it. I get out of the shower. I'm like a shaggy dog. I'm like, shake my head. I'm off down the street. It's great. I just don't have the balls yet, honestly, Kiefer. I go in and I get a half, right? And I love when it's like really tight here, but I don't have the chutzpah yet to go 0.
Yeah.
I can't get there yet.
You've gotten people used to it, so you could. But I kind of like this, right? Like I like this. Like I just saw Kenny Miller the other day. He came in with Amazon, and he still is. I mean, he's bald, right? Like he's
But we got to get Kenny to Kenny still thinks it's 1986, and I'm like, dude, stop. I know. Oh man, hey, a lot of fun things at the rink. I'm going to throw a curveball at you because it's timely as you guys get ready to roll with. We're taping this on Saturday morning, and you got the Blues. We're playing great hockey tonight. We'll get to that in a moment. But how about Ovechkin? I want to take you back, Kiefer. In your wildest dreams as a hockey aficionado, did you ever think somebody's getting the Gretzky's goal total?
No. And we had this conversation the other day about what are the untouchable records. I didn't think LeBron would ever break Kareem's record either. And I mean, how many is he over? I mean, it's unfathomable. I mean, he's a 40-year-old superstar. But for Ovechkin, Drew, when you see him in person, and I mean this with all due respect to Adam Foote, they are the same size as Footy is now. You can see him on the bench in Vancouver. His chest, his body, there's a reason that he's had this longevity. He is 200, I think he's 240 pounds. His legs are like tree trunks, and he's not Nathan McKinnon. He doesn't eat oats and whatever all that shit is. I don't know what they eat, but they eat to Ovechkin eats Pop-Tarts, right? He eats with his kids. He eats their food. Like he's just, he's one of those guys that's going to live to be like 95. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought I did the right things. I was going training. I was, and I died at 70 of a heart attack out on a run. This guy's an absolute moose. And so last night I'm watching this game and I'm thinking to myself, Quincy, my daughter, goes, "Oh my God, he scored! He scored!" And I was in the kitchen. I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, okay. He's one away from tying. Okay, so that sets up the game on the island, and then boom, he scored again." And I mean, just to hear the announcers and watch everybody wanted it to happen last night because it was a home game. But now what it does is create this. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a hockey fan or not. The most eyes ever will be on that. And they were sort of making fun of the Islanders because they can't even get half of the building filled. Tomorrow, it's going to be like the players are going to come out and be like, "Oh, this is what it looks like," and they're selling seats for $5,000 in the lower bowl. So I think it happens tomorrow. I think it's unreal.
Hey, I thought late third period it was going to happen. He had a couple of, as you all say in hockey, glorious chances. I mean, he was in the low slot, and I mean, he buries that thing about 70% of the time.
He also had a breakaway too, and I think he had a little poop in his pants because it's most of his shots are from that those circles over here, and he was on a breakaway and he fumbled it. But nobody wants to be that guy. But don't you, Drew? I mean, if Spencer Knight, if it would have, he would be on every reel forever. And so I'm like, if I'm a goalie, maybe I want to be that guy.
Keefe, I'll give you one because you know sports backwards and forwards. When you say Al Downing, and Al Downing had a really nice major league career, but Al Downing delivered the pitch that Henry Aaron hit for 7-15.
Yep. I mean, don't you want to be in that? I mean, I kind of do. Nobody thinks you suck because the greatest goaltender or greatest goal scorer of all time beat you. It's kind of, it's a moment. I can't wait. It's definitely going to happen tomorrow. I'm so pumped that it happens this season. With that team, Washington's an absolute wagon. They don't. I say they don't have any superstars. They've got Ovi, obviously, but the team is just rallied around this moment and sort of his season. So I'm excited for Washington. I'm excited for hockey and Ovi, and I just think it's a great moment not only in hockey but in sports.
He comes across as a really likable superstar, and how he handled the aftermath was special. I mean, he obviously, giving love to his little ones and to his family, and then the bow to Gretzky. I always say this because we're getting really to your time of year with the NHL playoffs, which I don't care what anybody says, it's the friggin' best. There's nothing like it. There's nothing that compares, and also the honor. These guys beat the living shit out of each other for, a lot of times a 7-game series. As a fan, you're literally living on the edge of your seat each night. And then, teeth missing, scars, broken bones, and then the handshake. And we saw that last night. And it was special, man. It's what sports should be about.
And just to see their face, I mean, there wasn't even a hesitation. And, I'm getting goosebumps right now. It's like freaking 11 o'clock in the morning. We're talking about something that happened last night, and it's not even my team. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Some of those young kids that are on the other side that have had a horrible year, and they're like, I'm going to get the chance to shake the hand of the greatest goal scorer ever to play the game right now. And what a moment, and I don't know what they said, but he had a moment with Patty Maroon that was kind of cool. They talked a little bit longer. Pat's won 3 Stanley Cups, and so there's a mutual respect, I think, but just that moment and the playoffs. It's funny that you bring that up, Drew, because Bedsy was saying the other day, they were like, is this team a rivalry, Detroit? And he was honest. He's like, no, they're not. They're not a rival. You create your rivalries in the postseason. And so that's why there's so much hate for Dallas and so much hate for Minnesota because, God, do you remember the hit on Tyson Barrie? I think it was Matt Cook when he took out Tyson Barrie. And from that moment, it was like everybody hates Minnesota. And now it's like with Dutchy and Mikko in Dallas, like this first-round matchup, which is going to happen. Everybody knows it, unless Winnipeg takes it absolute shit and lets Dallas get back in it, but it's going to start in Dallas, and I'll be on the road for that one. I mean, I can't even. Who knows what's going to happen? I think whoever wins that series wins the Stanley Cup. How about that?
Well, I want to, fingers crossed, the Avs are in that final. How special would it be if it's Ovechkin and the Caps in the Stanley Cup Finals against our Avalanche, right?
I mean, I don't even know. You tell me how you deal with it in baseball. You've got your favorite teams. Obviously, you love the Rockies, but you've got favorite players and you love the game. And I'm sure there's teams you hate, but like when I watch Ovechkin or I watch Crosby or I see, I've got a ton of respect for Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. There's great players. There's not really a team with the exception of Minnesota that I just genuinely don't like. So it's just seeing these other players come into the rink, and it's, I look up and these kids are just like, that what they must think of these guys that are, half my age now. They're 31 and everyone's like, oh, a couple more years and then it's it. And I'm like thinking to myself, these are kids, right? And it's just so cool to see so many superstars come in and have respect for McKinnon. That's how McKinnon and McCarr, everywhere they go, they're the show. I mean, it's an absolute ticket everywhere they go.
As they should be, and I hope and I think, because as you know, I go down fairly frequently to the arena. I don't miss unless there's a conflict, I do not miss a game. In fact, on the flight back from Philadelphia, until the picture crapped out on the plane, I watched the first 2+ periods, the other night, and it's fun. The Avalanche allow me just to be an unadulterated fan. I love the sport, as you know. I love the Avs, going back to when you and I were, in the same building, and I was getting to do, kind of your role. I was the pre and post game and the between period, and just like you are now in a golden era. That was when Peter was there and Joe was at the height of his powers, and Patty Waugh, and all those things. It's just special. The sport is different, and this is such an exciting time of year. But you're right. If you don't realize that 50 years from now, hockey nerds are going to be talking about arguably one of the two greatest defensemen of all time, Cale Makar, and one of the elite offensive players in NHL history is going to be Nathan McKinnon. Don't miss the boat. I mean, don't just kind of go, yeah, they're pretty good players in their day, and in this day. No, they're not. They're all-timers, truly all-timers.
You know what's funny? I've become really good friends with Cale's dad, Gary. We're the same age, which is just mind-blowing to me.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I mean, it's so like, oh, fuck, I'm old. But it's like, it's so cool because we talk about anything but hockey, right? We'll talk about, he calls himself Master Ice G. You ought to see this guy skate. It's no wonder that he's the dad of Cale Makar. I mean, this guy can absolutely roast it out on the ice. He's unreal. But he does these stupid little videos and he sends them to me on the road, and he's like, I show him to Riker and everybody, but it's him just burning around this outdoor rink somewhere in Calgary, and it's a neighborhood rink, and then he does these, hey, it's Master Ice G, just saying hi to Keefe, Riker, Moj, Connor, just you guys have a great game, great broadcast, boys, go Avs, go. And he's just like this playful kid that is so involved in, I wouldn't just say his kid's life, he's a team first guy, but it's like talking to the dad of Gordie Howe or Wayne Gretzky, or, it's just like you're talking to the dad and he doesn't want to pump his own kids' tires. He doesn't want to talk about Cale. He doesn't want to talk about the Norris. Everything just stays strictly like, hey, what's up, dude? How's it going today? God, you guys were funny last night. He'll send me memes. Like, I don't even know how to do a meme, but if Riker gets a flick of the hair, Gary will capture that and then make it a meme and he'll send it to me. It's just so cool to have a relationship with a guy that, is the father of arguably the best defenseman in the game and maybe ever in the game. And just to be so normal, like just so grounded and down to earth, that it's made it even more special to hang out with Cale. And I don't crisscross that relationship. I don't tell Cale what me and his dad are talking about, and I don't do the same thing. I keep it separate. But it's cool to have an inside track on that player, that guy, and to know that family is so, like I said, just so normal and so approachable and cool, right? Like, he's just a cool guy.
They have, and I've only been around Cale a couple of times. I don't know him at all, but they have what is persistent throughout the game of hockey, going way back, and that is hockey humility.
Yes.
Hockey humility. And it's one of the things you love about hockey is that as soon as you score a goal, it's like a mad rush to get to the other four guys on the ice, and hug it up.
Yeah,
And
that's what they teach in youth sports. I'd love to hear Quincy's, my daughter's softball coach, is always like, that's always the we before I and all that. But he explains to them, look, to the parents as well, don't just cheer for your kid. Nobody ever wins a game by themselves. Be happy for other kids, struggle with other kids, be emotionally engaged in the game for the team and not just your kid. And to your point, I think that's the culture in hockey that I'll just say it. I don't see it in very many other sports. You certainly don't see it in football. I mean, everybody's hot dogging it and it's all about contracts and yada, yada, yada. But hockey is one of those sports where it's just like a genuine team first type of mentality. I did the brunch the other day, the Abs Better Halves brunch.
Yeah.
You've been there a million times, but everybody likes to see Gabe. And he came out with a kid that wasn't supposed to live. There's so many heart-wrenching stories, but he came out and you walk with the kid down this aisle and you do something at the end, you pose, you clap, you do whatever. Gabe got down on his rear end and let this kid have his moment. And he just kind of sat there and watched. And he's not doing this for the cameras. He's doing it because he's got two kids, another one on the way. And he's genuinely involved in his life now, the parents' life. And he makes it all about the kid. And you can't teach that. You don't get the boys together before a brunch with, all these kids from Children's Hospital and say, hey, be really cool today. Make this about the kids. It's just an unspoken sort of, be you, be real. And it comes across that way. And you can tell as you're watching these, athletes that make millions and millions of dollars and they're good looking and they've got great bodies and all the eyes are on them, but they're not. They're all on this 5 or 6 year old kid. And I think it's a genuine respect at the brunch itself and from the team down. Everybody is just so. You use the word humility. It's just it's incredible. I've been so blessed to be part of this sport, and I learned from it, Drew. Sometimes I'm like, well, I am such an asshole. I am an egotistical maniac, self-serving, self-absorbing. I got to take myself back and just be like, don't be that guy, right? Don't be that guy. And so I learn a lot from these guys on a nightly basis that it's okay to be cool and normal. And full circle back to Kale's dad, Gary, it's a culture.
Yeah. A couple quick ones. And it's kind of an awkward segue because you're talking about that gala it's important. It really is. And those are young people and young families that, put sport in wins and losses in its proper context. I wanted to ask you, McCarr's little brother, who's not little, he's 6'4", I think he's centerman, right?
Taylor, yes.
Yeah, and he's played at the University of Maine. Is the Avs sign him? Is he a legit prospect, or is this a borderline guy and it's a nice story?
Yeah, I mean, I would say kind of in between both. Like he went from, I think he had 18 goals this year, and I think he had less than 18 goals his first 3 years at UMass. So has he completely done a 180? Yeah. Is he his brother? No. Will he ever be? Probably not. But yeah, there's that sort of nostalgia with McCarr. It's like, oh my God, we got 2 of them. I don't know if he'll be at training camp and they'll give him a shot. And it may be one of those things where he goes and plays in the American Hockey League and he lights it up and you're like, holy shit, lightning in a bottle again. And I think they got him with the 3rd to last pick, if I'm not mistaken, in the 7th round. So it was like, at the time, it was like, cool, good story. If you're not one of the top 15 picks, you're probably not going to make it to the big show anyway. So a lot of those guys, they just, they sort of spew out. That's just how it is. You got to be elite to play in the National Hockey League. But they took him with that pick, and then all of a sudden he lit it up this year. It was kind of disappointing what happened in the tournament that they just had. They fizzled out. But I think he's going to be a nice prospect. Do I see him being an elite NHL player? I don't know. Not as of now, probably not. But he'll be there, and if he improves, shit, he might make the roster one day. I don't know.
Oh, I don't want to flash back, and I probably speak for 98% of Avalanche fans. It had been so long with Landeskog, and you just felt like, horribly, it's not going to happen for him. This injury is so debilitating and so difficult to come back from. Nobody's really ever done it other than, Ball. I always get him confused. LaMelo Ball and which Ball is it?
Lonzo.
Okay, in Chicago, and you just feel like it's not going to happen. And then he sits down with you, and he has a documentary that comes out, and I'm listening, and maybe even more importantly than what he said, or as importantly, is that all of a sudden I'm watching him skate and watching the videos of him skate, and it's day after day, and then they removed the red no contact jersey, and I'm like, holy shit, he's going to play in the playoffs. Am I seeing this accurately?
Yes. Oh yeah. You're 100%. Back to that documentary and that conversation that I had with him, the journaling, Drew, is unreal. It's, when my wife went through breast cancer, I would journal, right? And I'll go back and I'll read it sometimes, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Or it'll take me back to these emotions. Gabe has done that. And it's been such good therapy for him. I mean, imagine having these two little kids, Lucas and Linnea, and they go to the rink and they celebrate hockey and they watch the Avs, and Dad's on the team, but is he? Because he's never really playing. And I mean, they're just, these two little kids, but they've never really seen Dad play. 2022, 3 years ago, they don't remember that. So, for him to be able to journal this whole thing and capture it. And look, when they started doing this, he had to have his first surgery. It was supposed to be like that, and he's back on the ice. Well, what turned into 1 turned into 2, turned into 3, and all of a sudden it's 3 years since we've seen him. And these people that are following him around, I'm sure they thought it was a 6-month deal. Like, we're going to capture this 6 months. He's back on the ice. All of a sudden they've got this documentary that's 3 years old. And now he's skating, and, he's down there practicing with the Eagles today, and just working his way back to, contact and this and that. But every expectation is that he will play in the playoffs this year. Nobody wants to get ahead of themselves and say he's playing, but I think we all know, watching him and listening to him and hearing EJ say it's not a matter of if, it's when. So I just think, look, Drew, we're gonna start in Dallas, right? Like I said, unless Winnipeg falls on their face, we're gonna start in Dallas. That game 3 back here in Denver, whenever that is, April 23rd, 4th, 5th, whatever it is. Holy shit! And I asked Gabe about it. I go, have you ever thought about that moment? And he literally, you can see his eyes just like water up, and he's like, that's what kept me going, was that moment of when he takes the ice, not only for warm-ups, but, I mean, that building's going to be fucking packed during warm-ups.
Help me out, and this is probably an unfair question, but it's on the mind of every ardent Avalanche fan. How do you utilize them with this new extremely gifted roster? Yeah. And it's not been, he's been out for 3 or 4 months, and they went and got Brock Nelson, and they went and made a trade, and Marty Netchus is now there. Where do you put him? What line do you put him? Is he part of, which he was a fixture, obviously, on your first power play? Again, this cat hasn't played in 3 years. What is realistic?
Well, what I think would happen is that he would start on the third line, right? And so you'd leave those top 2, assuming everyone's healthy, and start Gabe on third line just based on minutes. Like, you're thinking 12 to 14 minutes, right? Now, if that goes well and everything's going well, top power play 1,000,000%. I think you throw him right back in there. Can you imagine with Cale Makar up top, Val Nichushkin or Marty Netchus and Nathan McKinnon on the wing, Val and Gabe in the middle, And it's just like,
Good luck moving those guys out, huh?
I know. So yeah, it's you get all giddy thinking about this. But back to your question, I think eventually you start him on the third line and you work the minutes back up. Now, that being said, you don't have this is not game one of the regular season. This is playoffs. So how long does that window last? Because let's just say you come back and it's a split in Dallas in game 3. And, this feels like 7 games, right? And like to my point earlier, I think the winner of this first round matchup wins the Stanley Cup, because you're going to be out of that series. You're going to be as sharp as you could possibly be. I mean, the defense is going to be so fine tuned. The goaltending is going to have to be off the charts. I think you're going to mow down the rest of the way through the Western Conference, whoever it is.
I got so many questions for you. First of all, give me some injury updates. Manson, is he getting close?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think all these guys are. What is today? April 5th. I think all of these guys, Duran and Marty. We had Marty post game after he scored that goal, so he was good enough to finish the game, do the interview. I mean, his neck went like this. I mean, it's like you got to give the guys a couple of days, right? So they're both day to day, Duran and Natchez. We just talked about Landy, and then you got Josh Manson, which I think is a game 1 thing. It's like, you don't push it. Let's just bring him back in game 1. A lot of teams are doing this now, where you're just basically set. I mean, for the Avs to not finish third, it would have to be St. Louis would have to roll the table, make it 17 in a row, and the Avs would have to lose 4 of their last 5 or 6 games, whatever.
It's pretty locked in that it's
pretty locked in
Stars.
So I think they're 100% healthy come playoffs, which, if you think about this, Landeskog in that equation, it'll be the first time since June of 2022 that this team has been completely healthy.
That's amazing. So the natural question, and it's somewhat, again, unfair. That's why we ask these sports questions, right? Compare and contrast the roster that the third week of April began the 16W, as I call it, right, journey, and obviously hoisted the cup in 22, versus this roster. What do you have?
So I think of 2 people right out of the gates, which is Nazem Kadri and how good he was, especially in that series against St. Louis, and Darren Helm, which is a name that, a lot of people will be like, who? Well, Darren Helm, I mean, he had one of the most famous goals in St. Louis in game 6.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was insane. But they're role players. And so you don't win without a guy like Rene Corbet or a Stéphane Yell or an Eric Messier or a Mike Keane. You just don't win unless you have that depth, that grit, and that guy that's willing to lay down and take a 90-mile-an-hour slap shot in the back. Now, all of a sudden, you have that, okay? Brock Nelson is, just watching him since he's been here, has got a little nasty streak in him. Charlie Coyle, Boston, just thick and through, and just, playoff caliber guy. And then you got this guy named Jack Drury, who the other night was 88% on his faceoffs. I think he went 8 and 9.
He lost his last one. He was perfect, and he lost his last one.
Okay, yeah, you see, you know better than me. But again, there's a guy that will literally lay down in front of a puck, looking at the guy taking the slap shot. Like, he's not. There's no turtle. There's no flamingo. I mean, this guy in the regular season is already doing that. So, to me, it's very similar to the 2022 team, because take the superstars out of it. It's all that third and fourth line. Do you have guys that are on those lines that are willing to sacrifice everything? Logan O'Connor, Keefe,
Parker Kelly.
I mean, it's just you get that sort of tingle in your bones and say, okay, with the goaltending now with Blackwood and Wedgwood, which I think if anything should happen to Blackwood, I don't think you miss a beat with Scott Wedgwood. That's how solid it is. So are they similar? Yes. You remember, I mean, they absolutely crushed Hellebuck in round 1. It was unthinkable. They're going to have to play 3 different Stanley Cups before they get to the Stanley Cup. Dallas, Winnipeg, and either Vegas or Edmonton, or who knows? There's going to be an upset somewhere down the road. Shit, it might be St. Louis over Vegas. Who knows? They're red hot right now, but you're gonna be playing for this. It's so cliche, but it literally will be a Stanley Cup final all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So whoever comes out of the West, I think they're going to just smash somebody in the East.
I want your you always get honesty from me. So when the trade went down, the initial trade that sent, an all-time Av to Carolina.
Yeah.
Marty Netchis comes back, Drury comes back. I will say this, and you know more about the rest of the league than I do, because this is what you do every single day. I didn't realize Marty Netchis was as good as he is. And so my question is, did you realize that? And did you think, holy shit, what have we done here?
Yes, all of the above. I knew who Marty. I'll get to Mikko in a second. I knew who Marty Netchis was. He's the first or second best player on a really good team with no superstars. Right? We don't see Carolina very often. It would be comparable to like a Rob Thomas on St. Louis or a Jordan Kyrou or one of these guys where they're a really good team, but there's no McDavid, there's no Pasternak or Kucherov. So I knew he was a good player, but I had no idea about the skating. Like I had no idea. I think he's got the fastest burst of any player in the league this year, 5-on-5. So then that's talking about McKinnon, McDavid. Like this guy can motor. The other thing I really like about him is he's not always looking for 29. Like he's not just out there. Where's Nate? Where's Nate? Where's Nate? He's not afraid to create his own chaos, right? Like he's out there also trying to be a weapon and be, not be anyone's shadow, to create his own chaos. So yes, he's been unbelievable. With the Mikko thing, look, I'm on the Avs organization side on this, which they tried to get it done for a while, 6-7 months. Like, look, we got to sign Kale. We got guys. We got to think long term, right? You're going to get to play with McKinnon and Makar for the rest of your career and be a beloved guy and probably your jersey in the rafters one day if you can win a couple more cups or one more cup or two more, whatever. And the most likable, goofy, just he had it all and still does have it all. I love Mikko. But just kind of, I don't know what happened in the negotiations, but I know it was a really good offer, 8 years at 11.7 or 11.8 or whatever. And I don't think it was Mikko. I think it was more of the agent that sort of, didn't really pay attention to it. And Chris McFarland, God bless his soul. I mean, he is hardcore. He is about winning. No player is above the Stanley Cup. And he found an opportunity and he took it and he took the emotion out of it and he did it. And you look at what happened because of it. Now you got Charlie Coyle. Now you got Brock Nelson. You got Jack Drury. You got Marty Netchis, right? And you didn't have to spend all that money.
It's a better hockey team.
Yes, it is.
It's not even close, actually.
Mikko makes what, 12-1, right, or whatever. Now he gets the state taxes and all that stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, $400,000 a year to disrupt everything, uproot your life and your everything I gotta think that it just made him sick to his stomach. And whatever happened in Carolina, I'm not going to play here. I don't want to be here, that sort of stuff. I think that was all part of the holy shit, what just happened? Did I just literally leave Colorado, the greatest spot to be?
You and I have been in this business a long time, and I'll give you the baseball equivalent. I have great respect, and I know Scott Boras a little bit, and we visit. And he's the best at what he does, and a lot of fans naturally hate the quote unquote super agent. But one thing that sometimes the line gets blurred when you're reading these things, you think that the client works for the agent and not the other way around. Right. And the athlete has to remember, they're getting advice and hopefully it's astute advice, but at the end of the day, you're the one making the decision on what is offered. And obviously there's an obligation. Otherwise, you get in a hell of a lot of trouble.
Right.
If a team goes to an agent and says, hey, this is what we're offering, even if the agent thinks that's a horseshit offer, they still they're obligated to go to the client and say, hey, this is what they're offering. I don't like it, but obviously it's your decision. It was strange how it went down, but ultimately, as shocking as that was, I do think the Avalanche are in a better place than they were. Hey, just a quick one. It just popped in my head. I love Brock Nelson. Loved him from afar. he and Charlie Coyle, and you touched on this, Keefe, they're the kind of guys you have to have over the 2-month Stanley Cup playoffs if you're going to last. Big, strong, physical, got a little edge, got a lot of edge, actually, nasty guys. Brock Nelson is up at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
With the salary cap now, there's more dollars there because the NHL is healthy. Can Chris McFarland fit Brock Nelson into the future potentially?
Yeah, I think that's best case scenario. I think that they have every intention. I mean, he's still on a tryout essentially, right? Like 2C is that important. So, him producing now the playoffs is going to tell you a lot. Cause I mean, I just think of like Jack Hughes in the Four Nations, he's unbelievable player for New Jersey. And I don't remember them calling his name once during the Four Nations. It's like, is this going to be a problem down the road for Jersey? Like, you don't want these guys disappearing in the biggest moments. So I think he's definitely still on a trial. I think he's been everything he was advertised to be. I think both sides would love to get it done. I think, Brock has been pretty open about that. He loves Colorado, that he loves the organization. He loves the guys he's playing with. So I think it's a mutual sort of thing that let's get this done. I don't think, he's in his 30s, so it's not going to be a crazy number or a crazy contract unless he's, you get to a certain point in your career, Drew, where if Buffalo came out and said, you know what, we'll give you a 5-year deal at $7.5 million, or you stay here for $5 million. These guys have kids, they have families. It's not, I don't want to move to Buffalo and go grind it out with the Sabres in a rebuild. So, I always think that way. And I guess I'm wrong when it comes to a lot of athletes where you take all this money to just go lay a turd for your last 4 years of your career. So I think with Brock, yes, Charlie Coyle, if I'm not mistaken, has 1 more year. So
he does have 1 more year.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see that play out. But I think that the focus now is so on like getting there. There's so many guys on this team that realize this team has won before. Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon aren't guys that are just going to go through their career without winning multiple cups. This is my chance. This is my option. This is my team. So it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. But I think, to your question, I think both sides would love to work that out.
All right, before I let you run and get ready for tonight, I've got to compliment you. I'm a big fan. I said that earlier. And one of the things that's not easy to do in our neck of the woods in sports television, you sitting at that anchor desk, you have multiple partners. And people think, just one in and out. You're the quarterback, man, and everything starts with you. And, you may have Johnny Mitchell. You may have Stasny there. We finally got Lyles out of his Vale mansion and the wine room. But each guy is a unique personality. I mean, I have that because I have 3 different partners in the booth. I have Jeff Houston, obviously. I have Ryan Spielborgs. I have Corey Sullivan. Each guy, terrific, unique personalities. And so what you give one, you may not give another. Take us through, preparation and how you interact. And you guys have great chemistry, obviously. But it's not as easy, I think, as some people sitting on their couch thinks it is.
Right. And thank you for that. And thank you for recognizing it. And probably you and a handful of other people know what it's like. It's just different on a daily basis. I sit here right where we're sitting. This is where I do my work every morning. And I'll spend 3 hours every morning, preparing for a show and doing my work based on what's going on around the league, what's going on with the team. And I mean, you're writing an hour pregame show, 2 intermissions, and an hour postgame show. Now, the post is a little easier because it's all reactionary, right? So you have no idea. So you're just building a shell. But if I have Yanni, I write differently. I kind of prepare differently. I know how he does his research. So I know what benefits him. Maybe he's not really a numbers guy when he's more of a feel guy. And so I will write differently according to him. Mitchie, I know that, he's going to be a storyteller. He's going to have moments where he can relate to the Rangers, or he can relate to Toronto. And so I will write and do different things where I can say to him, hey, do you remember back in 2013, you were playing with the Leafs, you were in Ottawa and you did this, and I'll catch him off guard. But that's what I want, is that sort of shock and awe from him. I need him to be real in that moment. Whereas if I have Johnny Lyles or Riker, I know everything has to be spontaneous. Everything has to be loosey-goosey, sort of just off the tail. And I know these guys are always better and more natural and in their element when it's almost shock and awe. So having things prepared and not prepared, not as prepared, makes our broadcast better. And I think now what worked so well for Riker for years was the being able to accept a mistake, right? If you're a robot out there, nobody gives a shit. Like you want people to be able to relate to you because you're saying and feeling the same thing that they're saying and they're feeling. And if it's natural and you're honest with yourself, it works, right? And so it's hard whether you're winning or losing to always be, because I'm not always positive. If this team lose, I'm pissed, right? And if they get their butts kicked and deserve it, man, more power to them. But if they should have won a game and they didn't, I'm genuinely pissed. And, Joe is really good about saying, I want you guys to be you, be honest. If somebody's not holding their, water, point it out. We don't have to break down the fact that a guy quit on a shift, but you can say you need more from that guy. That wasn't his best moment. They've given us sort of the keys to the car and said, you guys have earned that trust. We trust you to not bury a guy, but if somebody does something, point it out. And if there's an issue, go up to the player, talk to him. I think that we've earned the trust with the team that we're never going to push it over the line, but we have to be honest with the product, honest with the fans. And I think they appreciate it just because they're feeling what you and I are feeling as we watch the game. I mean,
100%. I think the most ardent fan is going to be the most critical of their team when it's not going well. I mean, we know with the Rockies to juxtapose, across the street what's going on. It's been a tough several years, really tough the last couple of years. And guess what? You can't sugarcoat it. This start by the Rockies is horrendous. Yeah. And if you go on the air and try to say otherwise, you lose credibility. Now you can't, bury guys. You absolutely can't do that. I always believe this, and knowing you, I know you do as well. They're in the arena. Nobody goes out there and tries to suck. Nobody goes out there and says, you know what, I think I want to punch out 3 times today. Maybe the last time with the bases loaded. Or I want a fan on a one-timer in a 2-2 hockey game late in the third. I mean, come on. Right. But, you still have to cover it accurately. We're not writing a column. We do ostensibly work for the teams.
Yep.
And there's a balancing act, but good for Joe, who's obviously at the top of the food chain, saying no, we want you to be properly critical, and the Rockies are fine in that regard as well.
And that at the end of the day, that's why you've been doing it for so many years. And I think that if the fans know that, hey, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to give my attention to the Rockies and the Phillies or whoever it is, I know Drew's cadence. I know when he's pissed. I know when he's super excited. I can tell by the tone in his voice. Loyal fans appreciate your frustration. They appreciate your sort of jubilation. And if there's that synergy through that screen on the TV that this guy's saying what I feel, that brings me back and makes me want to tune in again. So I think what you've gone through and what the Rockies have gone through like the last few years has been hard. But when they win games, it's almost worth it. You're like, damn it, that's the team that I love and believe in. Mm-hmm. So I think your job and my job is to sort of quarterback the emotions of the team and the fans in the same direction. You're pulling the rope in the same direction.
Yeah, not always easy. Hey, you got work to do. You got to put on something a little fancier than that. You got the new haircut to show off tonight. I'm going to catch you post-game. It better be a positive post-game. All right? You got to knock off the blues tonight. You better do your part.
I'll do my part, Drew. I appreciate it, buddy. Good to be with you again. And this is awesome. Always great to catch up. Come by and say hi, and I'll do the same.
You betcha, man. We'll see you soon. Good luck, and tell the boys hello, man. You're the best. Have fun, brother.
Okay. Love you.
You betcha. Right back at you. Kyle's the best, and a big thanks to him. And when they get through Dallas in round 1, we'll get Keefe back on. and we'll talk shop and set up the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I am so fired up for that to get going. It is going to be an absolute blast. I'm a little concerned as we get on out of here about the other tenant in the building. The Nuggets have the best player in the world. We know that in Jokic, that 61-point performance, triple-double. I watched the whole second half of that. It was crushing the way it finished, as we know. I know that's been debated, litigated, what happened with Russell Westbrook. I'll say this. What Russell Westbrook may have been the only guy on that roster who gets the steal, and then they fouled it up because you got to run clock there. Let them come and foul you. Hopefully he gets rid of the basketball. He's not the best free throw shooter, as we know. They messed it up. Now, having said that, they have to get healthy, but it just doesn't feel right. It just feels like they're a player short on their bench, player and a half short on their bench, and we've been saying this for a while. Maybe it all can come together at the right time. Typically, when the porous defense and other issues have been staring you in the face for not days, not weeks, but months, you typically can't flip a switch. And Jokic is on record as saying it doesn't typically work that way. And, if they're a quick exit in the postseason, I still hope not. But if they are, it's going to be a long look in the mirror on the Nuggets side of things, because you just can't waste this all-time great in Nikola Jokic. Guess what? We'll do it again in 7 days. Again, big props to my man Kyle Keefe. Hopefully, when we're talking next week, the Rockies can turn things around and start swinging the bats a little bit. They have a couple more games as we tape this with the A's, and then the Milwaukee Brewers will come to town before a tough road trip. They go to San Diego and Los Angeles. But more on that next week. Show 300. We have a very, very special guest for Show 300. You'll make sure you want to tune in to that. Again, see you in 7 days. Stay safe. Stay well, everybody.